Yeah, here we are. I think we're live now.
Hi, hello people. Welcome to our live interview. We're a little bit late and we're sorry. It happens. Technology decided to have a little bit of fun with us. It was very fun, but not for us. We're going to give it a few minutes so that some more people can join us. While this is happening, I would be very happy if you would say something in the comments to let us know that you're watching, maybe where you're from. Tell us about your dog. Tell us if your dog is afraid of noises, like fireworks, maybe thunder, maybe some noises in the home, your washing machine. So anything like that, tell us in the comments. We would love to know. And even if your dog is not afraid of anything, we would also love to know that.
Yeah. I was just saying to Ina this morning that I remembered when we just got my dog from shelter how much she was afraid of noises, even just water boiling while I was cooking. And I just said, oh, I remember this now and how long it took for her to adjust. So it's really very big thing for them, the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My three ones are all different. I have one that is really scared of noises like wind and storms and fireworks. And then I have another one that sleeps through everything, like not bothered at all. And then Rufus, which is a hunting dog, and there's a lot of hunting going around here. When he hears gunshots, he goes out to check. Not scared at all, just really curious. So I think they must have hunted with him because we adopted him when he was already, a year old.
Mm.
Hi, Molly from Frankfurt.
Hello.
We are very international here. Just in the panel, we have people from the UK, from Bulgaria, from Spain, and from Slovenia. And I know that none of you know where Slovenia is. So it's a tiny chicken-shaped country next to Italy and Austria, and yeah. So maybe we can start with the introductions now.
Okay.
Hi, Katja from Ljubljana, who obviously knows where Slovenia is. So yes, we are the Smiling Leash project. Our project is dedicated to changing our perception of a walk with a dog. We want to show the world good examples of walking with dogs that in a way that's good for both dogs and their humans. You can find examples in video and photographic form on our Facebook page, on our Instagram, on our YouTube, and on our website. And of course, we are very happy if you also take part in the project by sending us your photos and your videos of Smiling Leash walks. Today, we are joined by Karen Webb. Welcome, Karen.
Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Karen is a highly experienced canine expert. She's worked with dogs for more than 15 years. She's also a qualified practitioner of applied zoopharmacognosy. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. That was very good.
I was a little bit nervous. Karen is also a board member and secretary of the Pet Dog Trainers of Europe. She focuses on giving dogs choices and helping them to heal physically and mentally. She has shared her knowledge through talks and events across the globe. And she is especially passionate about noise and the impact noise has on our dogs' lives. She's been exploring this. And we thought it would be especially appropriate to have this chat with Karen now, before the holiday season, even though we know that noises don't just happen during the holidays. There are many noises a dog would encounter in the home and outside on walks. During the holidays, outside of the holiday season. So we would like to know, how do noises affect our dogs? And is there anything we should be doing about this?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Noise became a project of mine almost 6 years ago. And it actually started off because of a dog that was actually staying with us that had 3 metal discs on its collar. And every time that dog moved, those discs jingled and jangled. When it ate out of its food bowl while it was eating, the discs were hitting the food bowl. When it turned over in its sleep, the discs were making a noise, so it woke the dog up. And quite frankly, the noise from those discs were driving us absolutely insane in the house. So really that was the trigger for it, as in, let's see what we can look at. And really, I did start a journey. We honestly, as humans, have no idea what noises in the home we actually subject our dogs to. And one thing I would actually say is, if your dog is wearing a metal disc, please do look at replacing it, either by having an embroidered name and telephone number on a harness, or using a plastic disc, or putting the disc in a little bag on its neck. But you know, there's no respite from it. You try and experiment on yourself, put some bracelets on, and then keep moving your arm and see how long you enjoy it. Anyway, I digress. That's my soapbox bit. Well, in the home in particular, my question is, how noisy are you? Do you actually know how noisy you are? Because humans, we really are noisy. And I and my husband actually got quite a shock because actually we started to look at the individual noise in the house. And, you know, everything makes a noise. You've got hoovers, you've got televisions, you've got doors banging, you've got children shouting, you've got radios playing, you've got games on computers playing. You might have a food juicer going, a food mixer going. Your washing machine is going, the spinner is going, and all these things are going on, not just once or twice or intermittently. The dog is subjected to it all the time. And we need to be aware. And one thing I normally say to people is, take a moment sometime during your normal household day and just sit there quietly in the middle of the floor or on a comfortable seat and actually close your eyes and listen to what's going on around you. And you'll actually be quite surprised. I actually took it further because my husband bought me quite an expensive sound machine. So I started testing implements in the home to see what noise levels were coming from them. Well, one of the first things I tested was the Hoover. And as I always say, and if my husband was listening or is listening, he'll back me up. The first thing I had to do in order to test the noise from the Hoover was to learn how to plug it in and switch it on and what it actually did. So, what you've actually got to look at is, our dogs actually hear a higher pitch than we do. So where, for instance, you've got a piece of machinery that the dog has lived with for quite some time, suddenly the dog might start to react to your Hoover. And it might be that the parts are wearing on it and the dog can actually hear noises from the Hoover that you can't hear. I went quite mad, actually. I mean, I am mad anyway, most people know that. But I went quite mad and started testing everything. I didn't test them where my dogs were. If I was going to drop pans on the floor or tin bowls on the floor, my dogs weren't present when that was done. So I never tested my dogs. But some of it was quite horrendous. And the only thing you've actually got in relation to noise is actually the World Health Organization, and it's in relation to humans. And they tend to measure sound in decibels. It's a logarithmic scale, which obviously we're not going to go into today. But anything at 86 decibels continually can have a profound impact on a human's hearing. And if you start to look at all the things that are going on in a house at one time and what we actually subject the dogs to, it's actually quite frightening. So hopefully people will start to look at the noise they're actually generating with the items that they're using in the home. I don't know whether that
Yeah.
answers your question a little.
It does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think. Go on.
No, it's okay. We were, because one of our questions was why is that dogs are so scared about noises, right? And you've kind of answered that. I think there are more things that maybe you can tell us about, but it's because they hear a lot more, isn't it? Their hearing is so much better.
Their hearing is very good. What the point I was making was they hear at a higher pitch to us, and they actually hear things 4 times away distance-wise. That isn't that they don't hear 4 times better than us. It's 4 times distance that they hear. So if you think with your dog clients, perhaps you've been to clients who say, I don't know what's the matter with my dog. He barks at absolutely everything. He starts to bark and there's absolutely nothing there. And what you've got to think of is, because the dog can hear, if you say 20 feet, they can hear 80 feet away. The dog can possibly hear people coming from outside, passing your house, approaching it. But until they actually get to your house and pass it, you don't actually know that they're there. It's like the television. People will say, and how many people do have problems that their dog barks suddenly at the television? Because the sounds on the television, there are background sounds that you or we, the humans, can't hear, but your dog can hear and react to. So that's just sounds in the house, and that can go for every implement. I mean, with my washing machine, for instance, when I first tested it for noise, I can't remember the level off the top of my head now, but when I tested it 6 months later, because the parts were starting to wear, the noise level was a lot higher. So that's what you've got to look at, is actually the dogs, how they hear the sounds. And I mean, now we are really, really going into a very live and active, noisy period of time for the dogs. Even those who around the world are in lockdown, you're still probably going to be celebrating Christmas in some way. And that's why I was pleased when you asked about, would I talk about noise at Christmas sort of thing around about this time, because you've in general, normal times, but I don't know what every part of the world's doing. Suddenly Christmas arrives, you've got visitors arriving, everybody's full of Christmas cheer, there's big greetings going on, the noise levels go up in the house. As the alcohol pours, the noise gets louder. You've then got the excitement of Christmas presents being opened, the shrieks if you've got children. You've got normally music playing in different rooms in the house. Then, of course, we start with the party poppers that make a popping noise. We've got Christmas crackers that you pull and they make a popping noise. The noises over Christmas can be absolutely horrendous, not forgetting the wonderful squeaky toy that somebody turns up with and gives your dog. And yeah, I've tested squeaky toys. And, we've got dogs who run around with squeaky toys in their mouths, squeak, 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 hyperactive, absolutely mad. And people think it's funny. And then, of course, the dog stops and shreds the toy. Well, it's probably trying to kill the squeaker, because, dogs get headaches and they get frustrated like humans do. So really, it is think about what you do at Christmas. I'm not being the party pooper police, but, we bring these wonderful dogs into our homes and they are part of our family, a very special part of our family. And therefore, we should, as an advocate for them, be aware, plan and prepare what you're going to do. Just tone things down a little bit, be aware of the noise. And that's without even starting about thunderstorms and fireworks.
Yeah.
Well,
Can we?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to clarify one little thing. When you talk about high pitch, right? Does that mean that they hear a different range to the ones that we hear?
Yes.
Right.
It's a higher pitch, a different range.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it, Anna. Thank you.
I was going to say that I absolutely agree. We can prepare and we can decide not to have noisy things in the house, which is a great idea. And it's always good to have an alternative. So there's still something fun to do, but it's not as noisy.
Absolutely.
So my last dog, the dearly departed Vader, was really, really afraid of loud noises. We kind of found out later what this was connected to, but when we had celebrations around New Year's and Christmas, first of all, we would go outside of the city to avoid the fireworks as much as we could. And we asked everyone who was there not to bring any kind of like mini fireworks or any poppers, anything like that. And it really made a big difference, I think, in his quality of life in general. But what about the things that we can't really control directly, like fireworks?
Well, we can ban them for a start. We all live in hope. Let's face it, Italy 2-3 years ago now came up with fireworks that don't have a noise. Whether or not that certainly will happen in the UK, I have no idea. The problem you've got with fireworks is they suddenly come out of the blue. They just happen. And I think, what you've got to look at is a dog doesn't wake up, for instance, on the 5th of November in the United Kingdom when we have gunpowder plot. So we celebrate fireworks every year on the 5th of November. The dog doesn't wake up on the morning of the 5th and go, oh, well, let's not worry, I've got fireworks going off tonight. The dog isn't going to wake up on New Year's Eve and think, oh, great, we've got fireworks tonight. But we as humans do, and we have that expectation. But in this country, fireworks start 2 or 3 weeks before the 5th of November every night, and then 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. It's crazy. And they're getting louder every year. And just briefly, I've already said there that 85 decibels can cause problems with ears if it's continual. But fireworks are allowed to be at 120 decibels. Now that is really, really loud, and it's getting far too in depth for what we want to chat about today. But the noise from them, they come out of the blue. There is no warning. And also, you've got the apprehension of the human or the guardian that the dogs live with, that they're apprehensive, that they know the dog's responded previously badly to fireworks. So they start to get stressed. So the dog picks up on their stress. So they're stressed and got anxiety before the fireworks even happen. But they come out of the blue. You've also got the smell and the atmospherics. I've never, until almost over 18 months ago, had a dog that was scared of noise. But we have one, and he's been a work in progress. And boy, have I been on a very steep learning curve, both my husband and I, for 18 months. He was so frightened of noise that, for instance, a bottle of fizzy water, when you undo the top and it gives that noise, he fled from the room. That's how sensitive he was. And we knew when fireworks came, because we've also got a clay pigeon shoot where people go and use their shotguns and shoot clays every Sunday. Yeah. We've got farmers around us because we live rurally, and they have bird scarers go off, which are loud bangs every 15 minutes. You can't just bring a dog into that, especially a dog that's got problems. But we even found with him that when fireworks had gone off, albeit it might only have been 15 or 20 minutes, apart from him initially trying to climb up the wall, and I seriously, I'm not exaggerating that, to see a dog try on its back legs to climb up a wall is absolutely terrifying. They just switch off from you. But once the fireworks had stopped, and we'd waited a period of time, and it was time for the dogs to go out for their nighttime pee in the garden, he got to the back door and he stood and he sniffed the air. So remember, we've also got the smells in the air, and he wouldn't go out. He wouldn't go across the doorstep because of the actual smell. So they come out of the blue. You have no warning with fireworks. With thunderstorms, for instance, we get weather warnings, we get the atmospherics, the pressure changes, the air changes. With this particular dog we could be having a very quiet day, and suddenly he will start to pace. And you think, why? And then about 30 minutes or 40 minutes later, bang, you get a thunderstorm. So, they pick up on these things. But fireworks, they're just getting louder and louder. I mean, when I was a child, many, many moons ago, a firework that made a noise was called a banger, and it just went bang. It was pretty pathetic, really, when you look back. But these things now are commercial, and the sound from them is absolutely horrendous. And we've also got the humans that suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder that have been in war zones or what in combat at some kind, and these noises are there for them. And I know that if I today had done what I do at a live personal, an actual talk where you attend in person, if I set off my webinar or talk with the sounds from a firework just out of the blue, it impacts on the audience. And I've had people say to me at the end of the talk, God, you really scared me at the beginning of that. You had my heart racing, my pulse went up. I think I've made my point there, don't you? How do you think the dog feels? But you can say how you feel. The dog can't. The dog just has to show you how it feels.
Right.
We have this thing with the storms here at home. My dog knows 30, 40 minutes before they happen that they're coming. She starts pacing, and yes, they know a lot before. So what can we do to start preparing now for things like that, and how? What would you recommend?
Well, my biggest thing that I always say to people is don't wait until New Year's Eve to then say, oh, well, my dog's frightened of fireworks, I needed to do something. Lots of people will actually look at, that the internet is a wonderful tool, but it's also a nightmare for people giving advice, as we all know. And I always say to people, don't wait till it happens. And especially in the UK, we all know that about 4 weeks before the 5th of November, fireworks are going to start. And then the dogs end up with problems for weeks. So you can actually work with it. Training behaviours to get a dog to go on a mat and lay calmly while fireworks are going off. That the dog will go and lay there because it's been trained to go there. The dog will stay on that mat until it's given a signal to leave that mat. But that dog internally is probably in a real turmoil. You've got anxiety, you've got stress, and I know you asked me what to do about it. Personally, try and keep things as quiet as possible. A lot of people say, turn the television up, close the curtains, turn the radio up, have sound throughout the house. Well, suddenly we're doing something different that we don't do normal times. So it is about you planning it, how to make a quieter night. Personally, obviously working as a practitioner of zoopharmacognosy, that's where I go to. I have worked with many, many dogs that have had horrendous fear of fireworks, phobias of noise, and behavioural work has not worked. If we'd worked with our latest boy, trying to train him not to react to the fireworks, we wouldn't have got anywhere. So it's about starting to work in advance. helping the dog by offering essential oils, nice waters, therapeutic waters. And a question often comes up from people, what about the vaporizers that you plug in and you can get them to vaporize? Well, I would actually say there is not a problem using a vaporizer to help create a calming atmosphere, provided you know what you are using. You wouldn't put silly oils in it like tea tree or eucalyptus or garlic or things like that. And believe me, people do. But if you find a water that, or an oil that your dog likes, such as rose, which is known to really reduce adrenaline levels by 30%, or lavender, which everybody says, oh, use lavender, it's wonderful. Well, actually, lavender gives me a headache. So, you know, you need to think, but as long as if you're using a diffuser, there is always an opportunity for the dog or dogs to leave the room. You never lock them in where a diffuser is. Plugins, I'm afraid I'm skeptical about them. They tend to be manufactured products that are in diffusers. And often people will say, well, my dog's very calm once I plug the diffuser in. Well, what you've probably got is the human has settled down a little bit because they've plugged a diffuser in and apparently they work. So if their stress levels come down, the dog's stress levels can come down. But there are things you can do. You know, one of the things I suspect you're going to ask me about is the use of crates. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting. I've just seen there somebody's put up, I get a headache from lavender. Yeah, everybody thinks lavender's wonderful. It isn't actually. And also it depends on the quality of it. Crates. No, I'm not an advocate of a crate. Yes, many years ago I used one. But, you know, we've all perhaps done something that we wouldn't do now. But I always say to everybody, and especially dog trainers, and dog owners, if you've done something because you believe it's the right thing to do, and then you become aware with more knowledge that it's not the correct thing to do, that there are reasons not to do it, that's when you change the way you do things. So you should never beat yourself up about that's the way, you know, I did that and I wish I hadn't. There's lots of things I wish I hadn't done. But there are all sorts of things you can do. So the crate, I wouldn't use a crate, but some people will say, and I absolutely agree, and it comes back to every dog is individual, like every human being is individual. Some dogs will want to be in a den, and often people make a crate into a den. But if you're going to have a crate, then either block the door or tie the door so it cannot close, or take the door off completely. And yes, cover the crate so the dog may feel secure in there, but you don't start throwing treats in to get the dog to go in. The dog should be free to make its own mind up. And I have seen, and probably some people listening here, have seen dogs injure themselves through trying to escape out of crates that they're locked in. You know, going to houses where the crates are just like metal twisted pieces because the dog has got themselves so stressed and panicked that they've actually broken their way out of the crate. And it has happened. Also, if a dog's locked in a crate, even if it's covered up to make it feel secure, you know, because you've got these noises going on and it causes the dog stress, then you're going to have a very stressed dog, and you're going to exacerbate the situation. Because, you know, the response to these noises is like humans. You're going to have stress, you're going to have anxiety, you're going to have depression, you're going to have behavioural issues come on. And I know I've digressed again. I tend to, because I always have too much to want to tell you.
No, it's fine.
Sorry?
It's absolutely fine. So you're saying a crate, as long as it's not being used the way crates are usually used. So a crate, as long as it's always open and it's always the dog's choice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It can be okay.
And yeah, it can. I know friends and colleagues whose dogs will quite happily go into what's been made a den, you know, or put 2 chairs together and put a cover over. It's not something I've done because I've done things differently. But if it works for your dog, it's what works. And have, you know, don't just have something in one place. Allow the dog the freedom to go where it wants in the house. Our particular boy, if he is in the kitchen, if the doors are closed, he can't cope. He came from a problematic behaviour, which he was locked in a cellar. And he cannot cope with being locked in. He has to have the choice to roam around the house, and that's what we let him do. And it's about having multiple places for them to go and lay. And yes, on firework night, it would be brilliant to sit on the sofa and have your dog snuggled into you. But realistically, that's probably not going to happen. But you need to plan and prepare what you're going to do. Start working with the dog now. If you think after this talk that zoopharmacognosy may be something you're interested in, then yes, I do run workshops. I'm currently partway through a workshop at the moment. And we can look at how you can help the dog with noises. Does that answer that?
Yeah. And I had another question. So I know, in this time, many people are questioning the medicine, maybe some kind of calming medicine for dogs. What is your opinion on that? To start giving, during the fireworks season.
I'm not. It's not something that I am an advocate of. If you're giving medication, you're going to have to start the medication sometimes weeks before, during, and then afterwards. And some of the medication that can be given, actually, the owner will see their dog looking calm because the dog is really impaired in its movements or whatever, but inside it's still in an emotional turmoil. This is where it also comes into people actually being able to observe their dogs, to understand the signals that they're actually getting from their dogs. And that's, as we all know from calming signals, that's where there is a lot of misunderstanding. Yes, you can give a hand signal. We know that. I've seen that come up on the chat there. A hand signal will work, but it's not a permanent thing. It hasn't fixed the dog. You need to actually work. There's got to be. It's got to be. You've got to get to the root cause of the problem. You can't just. We like to stick sticking plasters over things. And please, the person who put back the hand signal, I'm not having a personal go there. I'm just thinking you need to look at the root cause of the problem. Look at the whole picture and what you can actually do to help the dog.
Right. And if my dog is already afraid of fireworks, I think it makes sense to start working with a good behaviorist, ethical one before that, to find the root cause, to do something to help the dog better overall.
Many dogs that are frightened of fireworks are actually reacting to lots of other things as well. So actually sit back and observe what can be a trigger to your dog in the home, like the bottle of water I've just shown you. There are so many things that are possibly, you've got sound, and sound is something we live with. It's the birds chirping in the morning, it's the alarm clock going off, it's the music that we hear. But sometimes sounds become noise, and when they become noise, they can be an irritant to us, but they can be actually painful to our dogs. Yeah. So that's another aspect you've got to look at. Has your dog suddenly, actually, the dog's not as well as you expect? There are health issues. You've got to look at, with health issues, it could actually be a gut problem. They could be out of balance. So it's looking more deeply. It's not just getting that sticking plaster and putting it over it for the 5th of November or the 31st of December. It's actually working with it and observing what your dog is doing. Oh, look, Ruby's gone.
I hope she comes back. I think she'll come back. Okay.
Yeah, no, she is. In my case, the dog at home that is very scared of noises, she has pain. You know,
Yeah.
she is that case. You know, she has arthritis, and I think every time that she contracts because she hears a noise, she is more painful.
Yeah, they exacerbate the pain, and I suspect that you'll be working with her in one way or another, or she may be on medication. It's a whole minefield, really, but it's about raising awareness of what the problem can be with the dog, and it's looking at dogs like our dog that came into the home, the background that they've actually had, being aware of it.
Of course. But sometimes you don't know. Yeah. Sometimes you get a dog at home and you don't have the background or the history, and then what can you do is like really helpful. And is there one therapy that you think? I mean, you talk about zoopharma a lot because obviously you are an expert. Do you think that this works best in your opinion?
I'm not an expert. You know, that's a word.
No, I think you are.
Can't cope with the word expert. I have knowledge, and I've worked with many dogs, and I have to say that for me, we all have our different therapies and things which we decide work. For me, it's zoopharmacognosy. When I saw it 8, 9, 10 years ago, I was actually blown away by the results that you could see and how you could help the dog, because you can work on all aspects. And, you know, fear of noise, fireworks, thunderstorms can actually come from the dog having a gastrointestinal problem. It can come from them being spayed or neutered. It can come from a back injury. It can come from arthritis. As you said there, Letty, you know, when they draw themselves in or they panic because of a noise, they get a pain. And they can't actually say to you, "Excuse me, Mum, I've got a pain." But it's about knowing that pain. I mean, there's one dog I worked with in particular that her owners were distraught. She was 7-year-old. She'd been absolutely fine. And all of a sudden she started to react to noises, a banging door, somebody knocking at the door, wind, rattling things, thunderstorms, fireworks. She was in absolute panic, to the extent that on firework night, November the 5th, they actually had to rush her to the emergency vet because she got so anxious, she hyperventilated. The following year, they got in their car and they drove out from their home, and they were on the road up in the country for about 8 hours so that they avoided the fireworks on that night. And the next year they went to their vet to see about sedation. And because of the process that they would have to go through, they'd heard about the work I did. And we started to work with Charlie, and the results were absolutely phenomenal with her. And as a result, Charlie has helped many, many dogs worldwide because of the results they got through working with essential oils and waters and understanding their dog. So, yeah, I'm very biased. That's my therapy. And for me, well, it's not my personal therapy. I didn't develop it, but I'm just absolutely passionate about it. I've seen so much the amazing results that we can have with the dogs through it. That the Roobarb that we've got. Had I not been able to do what I do, we would not have got him through what we've got him through. We can actually now. He'll actually lay down through the fireworks, which is fantastic. It's taken a lot of hard work. It didn't happen overnight in one bottle of oil.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
I worked with him on a daily basis, not just a one-off now and again, or suddenly I thought, 2 weeks' time we've got fireworks. I worked with him on a daily basis, and it does take time, but it's so worth it to actually see your lovely four-legged dog actually start to relax and be able to enjoy life instead of being on tender hooks.
Right.
That's myself.
I think it's just important to add that this is not something to dabble in, I think, because essential oils have a strong impact on the body and obviously also on the mind. And there are some things that can be harmful to dogs. So you have to, I think you really have to know what you're doing. Am I right?
You absolutely do have to know what you're doing. And sadly, I read something, as I said, the internet is a wonderful tool, but I actually, because I tend to do a lot of research and keep up with things, and obviously people are contacting me all the time with, oh, I've read this and I'm going to do that. What do you think about it? And one of the things I actually saw from a very big company was, you know, you can buy your essential oils from us. It is actually a human company that specializes in oils for humans. Buy your oils from us, and what you do to introduce your dog to them is you start to use the oils on yourself, so the dog gets used to the smell, and then just after a while put the oils on your hand and stroke your dog. I was horrified. That's when you can cause a problem with a dog, when you start to just open a bottle of oil and either stick it under its nose or actually put it on your hands and start rubbing it on the dog. If the dog does not want or need that oil, that's when you can cause a problem. And it really is, you're absolutely right, Ina. It is about working safely and understanding what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Can I ask a little thing about your answer? Sorry, Luba, I just, went for it. You touched on the effects of fear on dogs. You said about the heart rate, the racing heart rate for Charlie, was it? Charlie? Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie actually got the fact he was hyperventilating, when you can't get in fast enough, and you think go on.
What other effects can fear have on their bodies and their mind? What happens to dogs physically?
You've got stress, you've got anxiety, you've got depression, all the things that you as a human can get. When we now know the dog's anatomy and physiology is very similar, if not the same as ours, they can have the same problems. And also with them, the behaviours, it can manifest in behavioural things, such as digging at carpets, chewing doorways, pacing, drooling, panting, peeing in the house, pooping in the house. Behaviour,
for example.
Absolutely. Dog not wanting to eat. It's too much for it. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, with stress, anxiety, it also, it's affecting the internal state. It's affecting the gut, the gastrointestinal system. And also, this is where you've got to start looking at diet. And I am not a nutritionist, but you've got to look at the quality of the food that the dog is actually eating. Is the dog being fed sufficiently? Is it a quality food? What are you doing with the dog? Are you giving it lovely, calm, slow social walks? What is a good social walk? What is a slow, calm walk? It's not about a route march around a housing estate. It's about taking them somewhere nice, and it's that whole picture, if you like, and that's one of the things I think of with noise. It's another piece in your jigsaw. And certainly as behaviourists, I would love behaviourists to go into the home and start looking around the home and actually have the person sit with you. And I know you're not there for hours, but just listen to that noise. Why does everybody have a television on in one room? In every room. Sorry, Letty, I've gone off on one again, haven't I? We are so noisy. we don't talk to each other. I'm not asking people to whisper while they're talking to each other. But, I get very excited. I can't help it. I'm a loud person anyway. We all know that. But think about it. People have a television going in one room, a radio going in another room, and it all builds up. Sometimes, sadly, I don't know what it's like in your countries, but dogs actually sleep in what's called a utility room or an out room or a laundry room. Firstly, they're in a crate, if they're really, really lucky. And I say that sarcastically. And the crate is next to the central heating boiler.
Oh,
and the central heating boiler booms on and off all night.
Yeah.
People like to do their washing in this country during the night on a timer when electricity is cheaper. So we lead into sleep deprivation. And we all know that humans who suffer sleep deprivation also suffer other illnesses.
And it also has such a strong impact on behavior. People subject their dogs to all of this, and then they wonder why their dogs misbehave, quote unquote. It's not really misbehaving. The dog is probably terribly stressed, sleep deprived, alone too much of the time, and of course there are going to be consequences on both health and behavior.
The dog is learning to, or trying to, develop its own coping strategies.
Yeah.
And then, people, many people I've gone to see for consultations for behaviour, they've said, oh, we come in from work and school, we have our dinner, we all come into the sitting room at night, we put the television on, we've got a fantastic war film to watch, or one of these like comical things that makes lots of noise with everybody flying in. That tends to be the thing these days. And all we want to do is cuddle with the dog, and he wants to go. He goes off into our bedroom, and that's not what we got a dog for. We got a dog to be with us and cuddle. Well, actually, probably the dog didn't like the television. If you want a dog that wants to sit through a horrendous film and be cuddled by you, go and get yourself a stuffed toy.
I can see that Audrey left a comment with an interesting strategy that she has. She says that she cooks veggies for her dog, and that's a calm time for the dog. The dog gets to lick and try the tastes and everything. And the cooking hood is on while this is going on, and she found out that slowly putting up the level of the hood higher when fireworks were outside blocked outside noises. And she's saying that this is something that's been working for her, and she's monitoring the behavior of the dog, the signals that the dog might give out. So using something like white noise, I guess, to mask the sound of fireworks.
You can try. Thankfully, it's working for Audrey's dog. That doesn't mean to say it's going to work for other dogs. And we haven't even touched on gadgets.
Yes, let's do that too.
I don't think you probably want to.
Maybe just a little bit, just quickly.
Everybody wants that quick fix. And gadgets, a lot of gadgets are pretty expensive, like the music that you can buy that goes around on a loop. I tend to play that for people and let them hear it. I know that my husband and also Caroline Lewis were here when I was first putting the presentation together, and I kept playing this clip of music I had, and they got to the point that they were going to kill me. They were going to do me physical harm. And actually, when I've played it at live workshops, people go, "Oh God, that was awful." And I can't say I'm not a specialist, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a sound recordist, but if you suddenly go, "God, that's awful," and the dog suddenly goes, and there's there, What's happened? Oh, the music's calmed the dog. Has it? You know,
No.
people advocate putting and I always get it the wrong way around, muff mutts on the dog's ears to block out the sound.
That's awful. I
Mutts,
don't like that at all.
well, I don't. They were actually developed, bit of useless information for you, but you might enjoy it. They were actually developed by a female pilot who used to flying her dog with her in a light aircraft. And she was concerned about the noise. So she developed these for the dog in the aircraft. And great, that's how they work. But they're not for in the home environment, for sticking on the dog. But, you know, somebody somewhere may listen to this and say, well, actually, we've got them and they work perfectly for our dog. They may work, but they're not resolving the problem. They're a sticking plaster. Thunder shirts. A lot of people advocate a thunder shirt. I don't advocate a thunder shirt. You know, I can also tell you that Turid is in agreement with me, Turid Rugas. Her view is also, you bind the dog up. You've got a dog that actually goes, well, I can't do anything about this, so what's the point? But inside, that dog is still in a turmoil. And I know I'll probably have upset somebody somewhere by saying that, but this is my view, my personal view. But I must admit, Turid Rugas and others are in agreement with me.
Yeah. And one very important question that we want to ask before the end of the life is, if you have a puppy at home that you just got, or you just got a dog, how do you go about introducing this dog to sound?
I think if you're buying a puppy from a breeder, I think you've got to look at, and hopefully you have done, people have done their research, they have gone and met the breeder, they have gone and met the parents of the dog, and they have seen how the puppy's been brought up within the litter. You get an awareness of what sounds the dog is actually used to. If it's just somewhere where a dog's been stuck in a shed, and this happens, you know, I'm not talking about puppy farms here. I'm just talking about a litter of dogs in the garden shed, because we actually don't want the poo and the pee in the house, and the dogs haven't got a lot of things to interact with within the shed. You actually, as the new person bringing the puppy in, should be aware of the surroundings the dogs come from. But it's about planning and preparing with the family. If you're going to be bringing that puppy home, that little bundle of gorgeous fluff at 10 or 12 weeks of age, notice I didn't say 8, 6 or 7, because you're going to have even more problems. Excuse my clock. You know, keep it calm. Keep the environment calm. Get rid of the television going off in each room, the radio off in each room. Just gradually introduce it to sounds. Try not to rattle the pans in the pan cupboard. And I was the world's worst, you know. Empty the dishwasher. I've seen somebody's mentioned the dishwasher. Empty the dishwasher, just literally throw the pans in the cupboard, and then you just pull it out and they all start rattling. Think about it. You know, think about the sounds where the dog's going to sleep at night. A lot of people still don't have the dog around them at night. A lot of people are still of that mindset. It's very, very bad to have the dog in the bedroom and on the bed. I know I'm probably preaching to a lot of the converted here that's not.
Let's just say for the record that it's not only absolutely fine to have your dog with you in the bedroom, it's actually the most natural thing for a dog.
Yeah.
They naturally want to sleep together, because it's a question of safety and survival. And it's really, I think, the best thing to do, especially with a puppy.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a new puppy.
But it is about, don't suddenly bring them into, if you're a noisy household, as I said, if you're going to be going out and getting a puppy, and I do hope people aren't going out and getting that Christmas puppy, because that is one of the worst things you can do at this time of year. But there will be loads, and the old dogs will be going out to rescue or on the streets, because we've got a newer brand. Don't start me on that one. it's about being aware of how noisy you are and just gradually introducing them to things. Don't suddenly bring that young pup in here and subject them to everything. It's having that awareness of how noisy your household is. Do the kids have to run around screaming and screeching? And I did actually do sound checks on screeching children.
Yeah.
But wherever I go, there's normally screeching children. But for weeks, I had to go around with my sound machine stuck in my pocket in the hope that I found one. Eventually, I did. But seriously, and going to a more serious subject also, bringing a rescue dog, a dog into its second home or its third home, depending on how many times it's bounced into rescue. What kind of rescue has it come from? The noise levels in rescue are horrendous. The clanging metal doors, the metal food bowls. If you've got a metal food bowl, folks, think about changing your food bowl. My dogs all eat out of pasta bowls, human bowls. We've gone up market, our dogs.
They get cakes, I hear.
Sorry?
I hear they get cakes. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, Holly Bobs has reached 15 years and 1.5
Amazing.
months. And for an Airedale, that is absolutely spectacular. I work as a practitioner of zoopharmacognosy, and I am giving my dogs the opportunity to select anything they need. And she is not. She was diagnosed with a heart murmur years ago. She's not on any heart medication. She has arthritis, but she's not on Metacam. And many of my past dogs were on Metacam. The way she's going at the moment, she's going to outlive Alan and I. She's great. But, we've had to adapt the house to an elderly lady with 2 younger dogs. But yeah, I digress. So your rescue dog, you've got to look at where they've come from. If you've been to collect them from the rescue, you're aware of the kind of noises they've been subjected to in the rescue. So, make it a calm environment for them. Look at that whole picture. If it's just a dog that you have absolutely no idea, then it's the same procedure. Just tone it down at home. Look at what you're doing. And please, please remove those metal tags from round their necks, especially if they're eating out of a metal food bowl. They get no respite. Seriously. Sorry, this was supposed to be a talk, and I don't think you've had a word in edgeways.
No, it's absolutely fine. We have an interesting question from Manuela.
Oh.
She's saying, what about displacement behavior when reacting to noise? I know a dog that, quote, plays with the Hoover, but actually I discovered that he's extremely noise sensitive. And this reminds me of our dearly departed rough collie, who was a mellow dog otherwise, but he would play and direct his play-like behaviors to the lawnmower, which was a noisy thing. So it's probably...
And it's not recommended. It's quite dangerous playing your noises to a lawnmower.
But this dog here plays with the Hoover, and many people might understand this as this is fine. But actually, probably not.
So, I would actually say, why do you have to hoover with the dog there if the dog has the problem with the hoover? It's not about flooding the dog with the hoover so the dog gets used to it. It's about looking at what else is going on in the dog's mind or body or world that is actually causing the dog to react to the hoover. Unfortunately, some people, and I'm not at all saying that that's what Manuela is saying that she is doing, I know that, but it isn't funny, but people do think, oh, look at this, a hoover, and the dog barks and tries to attack it. It's not funny. So, if there's 2 people in that household, why can't the hoovering be done when the dog's not there?
Exactly. Take him for a nice slow walk.
Walk. Or, take the dog out into the garden and, maybe the cheese treat fairies or the patty fairies have been around and the dog can actually use its senses. that wouldn't have worked with our boy when we first got him, because you just couldn't get him to focus. But, you know, why do they have to hoover when the dog is actually there?
I think that Manuela is going to change this because it's not her dog, as far as I understand.
Yes, I gathered. Yeah.
She discovered that this was a noise-sensitive dog, and it's probably very important information for this dog's guardian.
Yeah, somebody said to me a while ago, "Oh, we just can't hoover in our house. There's dog hair everywhere." It wasn't me, by the way. We just can't hoover in this house. There's dog hair everywhere because we can't get the hoover out because the dog goes ballistic. Well, that's, you know, why not get the dog out? There are so many things that the dog is probably reacting to, not just the hoover. And also, how old is the hoover? What noises is the hoover actually giving off that the human can't hear? Being absolutely serious, the parts are wearing on it. You won't hear those whining parts, but the dog will. I know I had a question a while ago when I did this talk. Sorry, am I running over time? You can tell me to shut up.
Fine.
Don't worry.
I think people are really enjoying this. So
somebody had a hairdryer at home and they don't have a problem, and yet when they go to their sister's home, their dogs react to the sister's hairdryer. Well, it's a different make, possibly. It's giving off a different sound. How old is it? The whining noise. And there's one particular company have developed a hairdryer which is quiet for the humans, but in actual fact, the noise that it will be emanating, the pitch that the dog can pick up on is very, very different.
You just reminded me of another example. My dog would react to one.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Ina. I'm just laughing at Gwen's comment.
My dog would react to one of the window shades being pulled up or down and not the others. And we never knew why until somebody told me, yes, well, when they were installing this one on this window, they had a part missing, so they had to improvise. So it was installed differently, with different sound than all of the other shades, all of the other windows. And that's the only one the dog would kind of have a response to. They can hear me so well.
Yeah. You've actually reminded me of something there. And as I said, Roobarb coming into our life over 18 months ago has been an absolutely huge learning curve for us. But shortly after we got Roobarb, we got Crumble. And she's an Airedale as well. And she is absolutely bomb-proof. Or so you think. We have in the kitchen what we call a clothes area, a 𝐀𝐿𝐴 that you pull up and down in front of the Arga cooker with the clothes. And the minute you unwind the ropes for the 𝐀𝐿𝐴, the area, to let it down, her tail goes down and she flees out of the kitchen, or she fled out of the kitchen. And only when she's heard it go back up will she appear again. Now, she also had a problem with fireworks, and in all the years, the many, many moons, 30 years plus of dogs which I've had, I started with dogs very young, obviously, of dogs that I've had, we have never, ever, ever had dogs that are frightened of noise. And we suddenly found ourselves with 2 dogs that had noise sensitivities, absolute fears. And we've worked with them, but as I said, we've been working on a daily basis. It doesn't happen overnight for anyone. So you reminded me there of things like the 𝐀𝐿𝐴. I just hope that as a result of this sort of little talk that we're having here, that people will perhaps go away, sit with that cup of coffee, or if you're like me, a gin and tonic, and close your eyes and listen to what's going on. Picture the sounds you're hearing, because I'm not saying that one hoover or one dishwasher making a loud noise is going to cause stress and anxiety. What you've got to look at is the big picture, that everything's going on at the same time. And also, you know, we're taking the dog out for a walk. You've got, if you're not fortunate and it's a quiet area, you've got main roads, you've got cars that backfire, you've got the morons on motorbikes that have to make the biggest screaming noise that they can make as they go past you. You've got emergency services vehicles, and you always get that whoop, whoop as it passes you. The noises that we subject our dog to outside are actually quite phenomenal and scary to them.
This is incredible. It feels like we can carry on for another hour, doesn't it? But people can hear you again, can they, Karen? You're soon going to give another chat.
Yeah, there's actually on the 3rd of January, it is actually a live webinar that people can sign up to. You can find it on Facebook. It's a live webinar that is actually being held for people in Mexico. And it is actually done with simultaneous translation. So it is longer, but it is actually my noise presentation. So in that, I actually talk about what sound is, what noise is, how we do the measuring, and then everybody is wanting to rush out and buy a sound meter to record their noises. So I go right through it. It's normally about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it is aimed. And do you know what's fantastic? I did this talk in Taiwan back in January, just before, unfortunately, this dreadful virus struck. And it was so lovely afterwards to be receiving emails from places like Taiwan that said, "Thank you for the talk. I've now removed the tags off my dog, off the collar." And for me, if I just get, or I just hear that the dog's had the metal tags taken off the collar, it's brilliant. I mean, people don't just put a tag on. They put a bell on, for God's sake. A bell or charms jingling. And as I said, you put some bangles on and go and try and sleep the night in bed with bangles on. It's, dogs get headaches. Dogs get headaches like we get headaches.
So that talk is with Canny Dog Center. If they want to,
I just put it on the screen.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
We got another good question in the meanwhile. I'm just going to read this one out, and then we can wrap up slowly. But this one, I think, is a good question for everyone. Katya is asking, let's say you do something noisy and your dog, your puppy or your adult dog, leaves the room. Is it best to leave the dog alone or to go after the dog?
My personal view, and it is just my view, is I would actually just calm the situation down and stay where I am and let the dog come back. I wouldn't actually follow the dog. People may disagree with me. They may say, well, I would want to go to the dog and actually pet the dog. But I personally would say, look, just stop what you're doing. Let the situation settle down. Your dog's not going to go so far away from you. Let the dog come back. Let the dog be curious. Don't make a big issue out of it. I do believe that, if you've got a dog who's got a noise problem or whatever, yes, comfort them. If even as adults, but certainly as a child, if something upset you, you wanted your mother or your father or your other sibling to actually comfort you and let you know that everything's all right. So that is important to do that. I know we've still got the old school out there that go, oh, you shouldn't call, you're causing problems by pampering them and telling them, oh, it's all right. Yeah, you don't need to go over the top with them. It's that word that keeps coming up, isn't it? It's about being calm with the dog, calm environment. And that's where I would be personally. I would just let the dog come back. Maybe you could be a little devious and you could have that treat tin there that you get something out of the treat tin to make up something that the dog can be interested in, and the curious puppy will come back.
And if something like this happens outside, for example, during a walk, your dog gets a scare because of a loud noise, what's the best way to go about it then?
Well, I think you've got to be very aware of where you are and what's going on. I mean, let's face it, if a firework goes off outside and some dogs are outside in the garden, they will bolt. They will jump that fence. They will run for miles. There was a case this year where the dog just bolted. Beautiful dog. They're all beautiful. Dog just bolted, ended up on a dual carriageway, hit by a car and killed. So they will react. But if, you know, it's lovely to have dogs off lead, but know where you are. I don't like the word control, I'm afraid. It's a word I moved away from a long ago. But you need to have ground rules and guidance with your dog. And certainly, you know, long leash, whatever, you've got your dog on a leash, you can actually, you're with them. They're not going to bolt off without you. You might smack into the odd tree as you pulled around it, but no, I'm making light of it. I think you've got to be, it's about being aware of your dog, and particularly fireworks season, you've got to be aware. I mean, at the moment, we keep hearing, you know, because of lockdown in the UK, that money, you know, people are struggling financially, but it didn't seem to stop them buying extravagant fireworks this year. I'm sorry, you know, but I'm the party police pooper, as we know.
No, but I agree completely. If we use a long leash, and when we say long leash, we mean 3 meters or more, with the emphasis on more, then even research by the Budzinskis has shown that using a long leash is very similar in how a dog behaves to being off leash. So during the worst of the fireworks, just use a long leash and a good harness, and the dog will not miss being off leash for a few days, at least in the worst of fireworks season. It's just that much safer.
The phrase I really like is, it's about being an advocate for your dog. You're responsible for the dog. You are the guardian, the mum, father, whatever you want to call yourself. But you know, you should be an advocate for your dog and plan and prepare. And if it's fireworks season, time your time outside on walks for during the day when the children are at school, when the morons aren't about, who have got nothing better to do than hang around and let bangers off to terrify old ladies. You know, time your walks. It's about planning and preparing, but also that awareness with your dogs. So I hope, I don't know whether I've covered all you wanted to cover or what.
Well, questions are still pouring in. So, ladies, what do you think? One more question and then we wrap it up.
Or do we wrap okay with it?
I'm okay.
No, if people have questions, I think
if it's a hard question, I can't have it.
I think there are no hard questions. This is another good one, though. If you know that you will be doing something noisy for some time and you can't avoid it, is it best to let the dog decide to go or stay, or to just put the dog in the other room and close the door? So if you're in the home and you know that some kind of repairs are going to be going on, what do we do?
Well, I wouldn't advocate putting it in a room by itself, I'm afraid, because you know, you can get the anxious dog that is going to start chewing your door frames and your woodwork and destroying things, because the poor animal is stressed. It doesn't understand the noise. So if you know that you've actually got somebody coming to do some repairs, then why not look to see, have you got somebody who can, who you trust, that your dog can go to for a couple of hours?
Grandma.
Yeah, go to grandma. Grandmas love dog sitting. You know, have you got somebody who you trust as a dog walker, who will walk as the Smiling Leash team would expect you to walk your dog. And, you know, time the workmanship there. I mean, things happen. You can't plan that, you know, the water main's going to burst in your house. You can't plan your drains need digging up, which ours do at the moment. You just, well, to add to the question, Katya, no, I wouldn't put the dog in a room and close the door. If you can't make alternative arrangements for the dog, then I would actually leave the doors open for the dog to choose where the dog actually wants to be. And you know, does the person, the human at home, have to be with the work person? Can you not be in another room? Can you not be in that room with the dog?
It depends whether you're doing the work yourself that's noisy. You might be the source of the noise, and you might not know.
Yeah,
right.
But yeah, making a plan in advance sounds like a very good idea.
It is all about planning, but really, I honestly hope people will take away two things today. One is that they sit down and close their eyes and think, how noisy am I? But don't do it when there's nothing happening in the house, obviously. And secondly, if your dog does wear a collar with a metal disc on, then please look at an alternative for it. There are things that you can do without having these dratted discs on.
Right. And for all the people who want to learn more and who want to contact Karen, I've put the banner with name of her Facebook page, Let Your Animal Lead. So you can find Karen on Facebook and get in touch if you're interested.
Yeah. And from me, thank you, ladies, for inviting me, or girls, whichever you would like. Thank you for inviting me to talk, and certainly thank you to the people who've come along and actually listened to the talk. And I know one or two people have said it's thanks a lot. That's great. If we just make a difference for one dog, that for me is it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your knowledge with us. It's been fascinating talk.
Okay, and I hope people will find themselves time to come to the talk, because it is more in depth. And
join again on the 3rd.
And I would just to remind you, Canny Dog Center on Facebook again. You can find all the details around this talk on 3rd of January. There it will be more complete and more information. So I hope people interested in can join in.
And is this talk still available for people to listen to at a later date?
This one will be, definitely.
Yes.
I'll remember not to listen to it, because I'll think, oh no.
Oh, you absolutely should. I listened to all of it.
Thank
you so much, Karen.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. And if I don't speak to you before, have a lovely Christmas, everybody. And next year is a better year.
Thanks for everyone who joined in to listen. That was lovely to have you here. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.